Google. Let's go get him again.
Welcome back to the Robezoid channel. I'm your host Mark, and welcome to your subscribers' choice sampling samples. Saturday every weekend we sample, and this weekend it is on the brand of Louis Vuitton. That is the brand that you chose, and the fragrance called Nouveau Monde. Now this one right here, a lot of my subscribers told me this is the Louis Vuitton that is really up my alley. That and Ombre Nomade, which I also have a sample, which is going to be coming up in the subscribers choice sampling sample, so keep it tuned in, subscribe if you haven't. And yeah, absolutely love discovering brands, things like that. And Louis Vuitton is a brand that they utilize Cavallier, and a lot of the fragrances, at least to me, don't seem like the price tag matches the scent to me personally, just looking at it afar. Now Nouveau Monde, and again, I haven't spoken much about Louis Vuitton on my channel. I only own one from the brand. When they first started, I got a fragrance called Mille Feux. They introduced a whole line, which is, when they started, it was they dubbed it a whole feminine line, and then 2 years later they did a whole men's line, basically. Mille Feux, which was a feminine Tuscan leather, raspberry leathery thing with some florals. It was actually not too bad. It is strong. That is a very strong thing. Cavallier, from what I see now, he's utilizing a lot of this Tuscan leather-esque back recipe in a lot of his fragrances. So I'm looking forward to sniffing a few more from Louis Vuitton in the new year, in 2024, but we're gonna start early here in 2023 with this one. And let's see what my subscribers say about this one. They think it's my taste. Let's see what I get. Let's go under the hood. Let's take a look at some stats on this one. Our release date was back in 2018. Concentrations eau de parfum. The nose is Jacques Cavallier Beltrude. Cavallier is a all-star perfumier. His resume is awesome. I think, and this is just me, I feel like Cavallier, as a nose, I feel he's better suited for designer fragrances, like really good, like he can make you a really good designer, a hit in the designer game. I think he's peaked as he knows. I don't think he can hit these. I don't know, a lot of people love these Louis Vuittons, but I really think his recipes, the way he constructs them and all that, I feel like he has a ceiling of sort, like $200 would be the most I'd be paying for a Cavallier fragrance and really enjoy it. Other than that, I'm overpaying, to be quite honest. But an all-star perfumier. Let's take a look at the notes on this one. The notes published, very small. They have saffron, oud, rose. Saffron's going to show a lot of its leathery side here. Really up my alley. So now seeing oud in the note breakdown, always a good thing. It makes me smile a little bit. And as Cavallier was, if you didn't know, he was one of the creators for M7 by YSL. There's my bottle of M7. Love this stuff. This was known as the first highly produced designer ouds on the market. M7, truly a westernized oud, but however, it was excellent. One of my favorite discontinued designer fragrances of all time. I love this stuff, but let's see what Monsieur Cavallier can do here. So this one is my scent of the day. I'm living with it now, but I'm going to finish off my little sample here all in front of you and remind myself of the introduction. Launch. Not broken. Okay. Beautiful, beautiful scent. You're right, it is my taste in the introduction. Now this one is, and again, I don't have an atomizer, I just have a little dabber, and this one doesn't start off as animalic as many state. I perused the internet a little bit just to see what people thought about this one. A lot of people were talking about barnyardy, animalic scent, and we're gonna start there. It's there, but it's not big and punchy, at least to my nose. Now, Louis Vuitton say they utilize a some oud in this composition, usually associated with fecal or barnyardy oud. I sense a bit of it here, but I'm not getting much of it. And it's very well blended as a fragrance, first of all. Now, Oud Assam, which means extremely pure in Arabic, does give spicy facets, woody facets with smoky, leathery touches. Now, leathery is definitely where this thing is going. I'm getting a lot of leathery nuances here with this one. The oud, to my nose, is a mishmash of a westernized oud and something a little more daring. However, I feel like it's very well balanced in those two, that I feel like it's not big, bold, or even really that daring to my nose, but it's well done, it's rich, and it's complex. So there's a bridge in this release that I feel like there's more to it than meets the eye. But an excellent, excellent scent. So don't get me wrong. I just want to kind of, like some people, and again, I guess it's about your nose and your journey. Some people will get attacked by animalics here. Not me. It's there, but it's really not cheesy. And it really doesn't, it just has a little bit of a growl in the back end of the release. There. That makes a little more sense with a westernized oud portion of it. Now, the main factor here is the oud. It comes off leathery, and that is met with a saffron note, which is also very leathery. So the theme here is leather with an oud saffron rose combo. So your familiar oud saffron rose thing. The rose comes into play, gives off the scent profile, some lightness to the darker themes. So the rose kind of gets jammy here a bit, and it reminds me of raspberry. So which, yep, I was gonna get to it. It reminds me of a little Tuscan leather-esque vibe, which immediately brought me to Millefeuille, which again, which was composed obviously by Cavallier. So it brings me to Millefeuille from the same brand, from the same nose. It brings me to this, and a lot of people are comparing this to Homme de Mad, which also has, from what I hear, leathery Tuscan leather-esque ideas. So Cavallier kind of rehashing the same backbone, perhaps. Now the leather accord here is very impressive. And with time, it's going to give off a smoky accord at the same time. I started to kind of think of an imagery. I like to do this sometimes on fragrance review. And let's go with a dusty, leathery combo. That makes me think of an older Louis Vuitton leather trunk. Worn, classy, but still just good as new. And there's a little storm brewing in the background of this fragrance. Never really goes full blown, but there's something that, and I like this. I like this trick from Cavallier. It's a mild animalic oud with a whisper of smoke in the back end of it that really keeps the user entertained and interested in this release, because there's an air of something a little interesting in the back end of it. So once you start getting more into the mid of this fragrance, the development slows down to a crawl. You start losing interesting parts. Cacao is listed here, so a chocolate type of accord here, note, is listed, but as many knows got this cacao, I felt it was a very minor piece. I actually get more vanillic tendencies out of this fragrance than anything, a sweetness, more vanillic than chocolatey. And it's no gourmand, by the way. It just has a little bit of that sweetness there. Maybe a dusting of chocolate, but oof, it's minor. Now there's some floral aspects that lighten the fragrance quite a bit here, adding to the rose. There's a jasmine note as well that I'm detecting. And there's also some green aspects. Even though not listed, I do get some patchouli in this back end of this release too. There's definitely an ambery glow in the back end with a slight resinous incense smoke and a creamy soft sweetness. That's basically how it ends. The dry down is a little less interesting than the top. It's the leather starts getting more suede-like, so there's less of that animalic little bite. The jammy rose isn't so jammy anymore. The saffron loses some of its kick. So you're basically left with the dusty, woody, oud, ambery nuances that a lot of fragrance heads have smelt before. That little ambery, woody thing, right? And the leather, of course. But it lost a lot of its bite, unfortunately, in the back end. So that's just one thing to note. I definitely think it's a very very well-made composition, but I much preferred the opening to this, to the back end, as it felt it actually lightened. Usually fragrances darken with time. The more I wore it, and again, I haven't worn a lot of it, it's just a very small sample, but I did love the darkness initially. You got me, yeah. Overall, a westernized oud composition, well created by Cavallier. There's some interesting parts here and there that go throughout the fragrance. I wasn't expecting a leathery thing. Very surprised, and I love that. I love my leathers. Restrained is a really good word for this fragrance. I felt like it was going to belt through. And a lot of the parts here, and again, you can call it polished. You can call it something else that, you know, Cavallier really well blended, but restrained is really a good word for a lot of this fragrance. I felt like a lot of the notes were just like, they came out and like the rose had a big jammy piece and then it just fell apart. The saffron had a beautiful leathery, and it didn't fall apart, but it lost some of its piquant. And the oud with the leathery touch, it lost a little bit of itself in the back end, and then it started getting more vanillic sweetness, and the cacao is basically a non-factor in my personal opinion. Again, I know I just sampled it a few days, but yeah, that's what I'm getting out of this release. Now let's get into Seasons, Day, Night, Versatility, and Performance. Seasons, fall and winter. It's a darker release. Great for these Canadian winters and fall, to be quite honest. It does have some personality. I don't want this to be overly negative. There's a lot of good in this. This is my favorite Louis Vuitton release to this day. Now, I haven't smelt a dozen of these. I've smelt not too many, but this is the front runner. It's a solid release, but I feel like there could have been more. Now, day or night, I feel like this is more of a nighttime scent. It is a darker scent. Versatility, the versatility is below average. I feel like, and this is, again, my personal opinion as far as the animalic parts, I felt they were interesting, but they're very, very much muted in the back end of this release. So, but I could see some people going, oh, I'm not going to wear this to this, and this because of that. So, and leather too. People get, you know, a little crazy with leathers. I love them. This was actually a very pleasant wearing for me personally. There's nothing that's like, oh, shocker, right? But it's nice to see a darker release because I've been smelling a lot of just the lighter stuff from Louis Vuitton. Performance was good. 10 to 12 plus hours longevity. You can't complain here. Actually, very good longevity. Projection's not beast. It's average. And that could maybe surprise some people. This thing lasted. And I mean it lasted. The first day I wore it, it lasted the next day. That's how good it was. And it was at least 14 to 16 hours when that first wearing, and when I sniffed myself again. So that was interesting to say the least. So it does have longevity. Now, my final thoughts on this release are Nouveau Monde is a fantastic release from the brand. I have to say that. Now, versus price and quality and what you're getting, that's another question. The blend is smooth. So that's, again, I appreciate a really good blend. Quality is there. I do like quality. I feel like this one does have a lot more quality than a lot of Cavaliers. It may not be anything new to your nose or crazy for an experienced nose. There's nothing crazy here. It's a solid set from top to, I feel like saying top to bottom, but top to start of the dry down. Like the back end is okay. Like I'm not gonna poo-poo it too much. It's just a small transition, and then it just slows down to a crawl. I feel like the only thing that is stopping this scent from being a must-have for me is the back end of it, which it lost a lot of its personality. Now that could be just because I only had a little sample, I couldn't douse myself in it. But it seems like, as far as the uniqueness, it seems like Cavalier is utilizing this leathery recipe quite a bit here, and it's losing its uniqueness. It's starting to get kind of repetitive here with Cavallier. So I'm kind of, not that I'm scared to try out Ombre Nomade, but I feel like it's going to be the same type of recipe. However, a lot of good here. Definitely, this is a way more suited Louis Vuitton than Millefeuille that I purchased. So it is on the I'm not excited to purchase it. Like, I'm not like a must have, but it's on the purchase list. I do like this one quite a bit, but I feel like as far as fragrance reviewing goes, this is not a 10 out of 10, but it's a very solidly built fragrance. And for now, it is the best Louis Vuitton that I've smelt. So I have to give it a score because the sampling samples out of 10. I'm gonna give it a 9. I feel like the oud has some really interesting, especially that animalic back end, even though it's very minor. I enjoy this kind of recipe. The leathery touch is really nice. The small animalic pieces with the leather makes the leather a little more growl to it. And the rose is excellent. The saffron's really good. Uniqueness is not there, and it kind of loses steam in the back end. I don't mean performance-wise. It does not lose steam performance-wise. It does lose some unique pieces that I felt like should have been there in hour 6, 7, and 8. There's no reason why they shouldn't be. So yeah, a good score, a review that was positive and negative. And yeah, I'm looking forward to this one. I feel like this one might be another sample instead of buying, like maybe get a bigger sample next time. We'll see. Now that you've heard my take, I'd love to see yours in the comments below. To the ones that suggested this one, it is right up my wheelhouse. You were right. This is the type of fragrances that I do want to see from Louis Vuitton. I feel like Cavalier's ceiling is just lower than their prices. That's my thought process. That's all. And again, that's all up to anybody's judgment. But to me, I feel like this is where he excels. Unique designer fragrances. You know, you're paying $100 on that. Now you're paying more than $100 for designers, $150, give or take. That's where he really does well. When you give him a unique brief, he can do well for you. As always, a great pour fragrance will make a lasting impression. Choose your scent wisely. Thanks for watching. Have a good one.